ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Gowri.
And good morning, this is Grace.
And we are here on our ASEAN Daily to bring you news from all over Southeast Asia, as well as probably some important headlines from other parts of Asia Pacific as well. So today is a Friday. Are you excited, Grace?
Of course, Friday is always exciting day of the week, and I can't wait to tomorrow. There are so many things are happening tomorrow apparently, so I can't wait to attend the events.
Okay, and yeah, this has also been a very long week for us, attending numerous events and press conference. So we're all looking forward to the weekend to get some rest. And coming back to our ASEAN Daily, I'm afraid that we may not have time for ASEAN today because so much has happened in Malaysia itself in just the last couple of days.
And then especially last night, especially the TV channel TV3 was broadcasting what our Prime Minister had to say about all several issues that has been going on for some time. And then all the attentions was on that TV3 yesterday.
And of course, this started with our former Prime Minister, Tun Mahathir, who questioned Najib's performance as a Prime Minister, saying that he was disappointed with a lot of things that Najib is doing and that he's not up to the expectation of Tun Mahathir and also of the people in Malaysia as well. And therefore, there was the interview last night where our Prime Minister Najib was at a talk show where he clarified a lot of things, and this includes all the usual issues from 1MDB, GST, the Sedition Act, and of course, so we are going to start with his justification itself, where he said that Dr. Mahathir actually has the right to question his performance as Prime Minister, but he doesn't really have to answer to that because the only person he has to answer to is the people of Malaysia.
And apparently, it was not a live show. It was pre-recorded already. And then a lot of questions were raised after this interview, particularly because people were asking where the all these answers coming from. And then the questions were already pre-prepared that whenever the Prime Minister answered the questions, it sounded as if it was already scripted. Yeah, but then the questions and the answers, some questions and answers, they really didn't really answer to the questions. And sometimes the question was too general, so that the interview yesterday wasn't really not satisfied.
And apart from the questions being too general, I watched bits of it and his answers as well. I would say, sadly, it's very politically correct, and he's also he gives very basic answers like, we could do more about this. And when he mentioned about the flood, the rebuilding of homes of Kelantan flood victims, he said, I'm not satisfied with the rate the development is happening. I think it could be faster. I think it could be better. But instead of just sitting there and saying that it could be better, it could be faster, he didn't actually take any solid action or come up with some action plan to actually speed up the process. With the same thing about the hudud, that he said it has to be tabled again at the next parliamentary sitting. And what I really want to highlight here is that he actually said that this is a democratic country and the only person that can question him is the rakyat, the people who are all of us. But I would say the evidence suggests otherwise, because a lot of people have been questioning the government and the Prime Minister and things didn't end so well. So that's kind of contradictory on his part, I think, because he actually said that we are allowed to ask questions, we are allowed to criticize the government if we're not happy, but why is it that when that happens, you get put behind bars or you're arrested?
And then, according to the democracy, of course, the system has to be two-way communication, where when people they ask questions, then it needs to be heard and also answered at the same time. But then it looks like, even though he said he is answerable only to the people, not to anyone individual, but where did all the answers go? And at the same time, it would a lot of criticism came over after that. It will not win if Najib is the leader. He had the great hopes when Najib took over from the Abdullah from former Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir, and also but. He didn't. He performed even worse than Abdullah and losing more badly in Selangor. So that really shows it's been going on. The comments from Dr. Mahathir about Najib's performances, and then he's been criticizing regarding how he was handling certain issues in the country.
And of course, it was Dr. Mahathir who said that it's disappointing, and he had hoped that our Prime Minister Najib would perform better. But I think he's not the only one who feels that way. Probably all 29 million, okay, maybe not all, but probably 80% of all Malaysians feel the same way and share the same sentiments as Dr. Mahathir, saying that, well, we all expected Najib to do better and to be a moderate leader at least, because that's what he's been promoting every time he goes to different countries, attending forums and conferences. He always tries to project Malaysia as this very moderate country that is fair, that's open to discussion and dialogue. And of course that brings us to another topic, which is the Sedition Act, which has been going through some amendments in the last couple of days. And we all know that the biggest amendment, which is also the most controversial one, was detention without trial, and also that anyone who's arrested from now on will be denied bail. And this violates human rights on so many different levels, and a lot of people have also voiced their dissatisfaction about this.
So regarding that, one of his answers to Sedition Act was that this act is not just for Muslims, it is also for protection of all Malaysians. So here we have to really need to understand the definition of what is the protection of all Malaysians here when it comes to Sedition Act. And it is also aimed at preventing any person who promotes feelings of hostility between persons or groups on the grounds of religion, whether religion is attacked, a certain religion such as Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, or any of other faith in Malaysia is proud to be home to. And that's what our Prime Minister Najib in the television he said yesterday. But the answer is too general, Gowri, and it really doesn't answer to the questions.
And apart from that, he also said that we will not and cannot stand the incitement of racial or inter-ethnic conflict, and we have come too far to harm that progress we have made, which is right. He's absolutely right that we will not and we should not tolerate any kind of incitement, any kinds of actions or words that actually incite hatred or violence among people of different race, different religion. But the Sedition Act is not the way to do it. You don't try to instill morals in someone by coming up with a law. In this case, we're talking about the Sedition Act. It has to go beyond that. It goes back to the whole education, probably educating the young people in primary school itself on how to be tolerant, how to learn how to compromise, how to understand each other's differences and appreciate it, instead of him actually saying, well, we need the Sedition Act because that's the only way to ensure a harmonious society. I think that's a bit like a shortcut to what we are trying to achieve as a nation of various race and religion.
And of course, education is important here, but then at the same time, when the questions are raised to Prime Minister, the questions also needs to be raised to his adversary, the whole group there, because it's not he's not the only one who performs for the country. It's the whole group, the team is working together. So it sounds very very secretive at the same time when he answers certain questions, because like I mentioned before, it looked like it is all scripted and that he already knew what the questions were.
Right.
So it wasn't really promptu kind of answers that he had to answer naturally. It was sort of like prepared.
And you don't see him being caught off guard because he's already so carefully prepared and he knew all the answers to the question. But there was also a question asked about his promise to repeal the Sedition Act.
Right.
And he said, yes, I made that promise. And I'm glad he finally answered this question, because everyone has been asking what happened to your promise to repeal the Sedition Act. And he said that as a leader, you have to reevaluate things from time to time. And it seems that as of now, we are still not ready to have the Sedition Act repealed, and that's why he had to change his mind. And this is for this is what's best for the rakyat at this point, and that was his justification, which of course a lot of people may or may not agree. In this case, I don't agree with this either, because like I was saying earlier, when it comes to the best interest of the rakyat, or trying to preserve the harmony in the country, Sedition Act is not the only way to do it, and it's not the best way either, because instead of doing something, saying that, I'm not going to do this because of the Sedition Act, it's better for people to say, I'm not going to do this because we are supposed to respect each other, we're supposed to understand each other, and that will be a more matured way of thinking, as opposed to just being scared all the time because the Sedition Act is there watching you.
So watching you, watching us. So the fears shouldn't be, in the way to, for us to express ourselves freely in this country, when it is already said again and again, it's a democratic country.
That's right. And another thing that I remember you just now mentioning something about him being secretive, and of course going back to his interview last night, he was also asked about the very controversial murder of the Mongolian model, Tantuya Sharibu, and this is another topic that's also very sensitive when it comes to discussing in this country. But he actually said that no evidence ever existed that he knew Altantuya. There are no pictures, no writings, no witnesses, and there is absolutely no solid evidence whatsoever.
He totally denied that he did not know about the lady, and then he had nothing to do with the lady, so it was not coming from him. That's what he basically mentioned in the interview yesterday. However, and also he also mentioned that it is a very old story. It happened a long time ago, and then he hasn't even sworn an oath 3 times. And when entering the mosque, also he did not know this person at all, and he had no direct or indirect involvement with her.
You know what's the most interesting about this story or this incident? Every time the topic about Altantuya comes up, the only thing that the Prime Minister does is deny it. And even before this, a few times when the accusations came up, he came forward and said, no, I have no relation to this, I did not do this, and I have no connection to this whatsoever. What he doesn't say is that I'm going to find out who did this and make sure that he gets the rightful punishment. And that's something to think about as well, because as a prime minister, we would think that that's his job, that he should find a culprit and make sure that person faces whatever sentence that he deserves, as opposed to just coming up and denying it over and over again. Doesn't that say something?
Actually, that creates a lot of assumption, you see, when he denies, because he doesn't really clarify what's the cause of the incident, or who actually did it, and then why she was killed, and all sorts of the questions were raised, of course. But then if he keep on denying on this particular incident, that some of people already said it, they already know what happened.
Right. And even if you see on Twitter, a lot of people replied to this particular news and said that, well, nobody asked you if you were involved or not. The only thing people ask you is who is the killer. So why did he even say that, it wasn't me, or I'm not involved? That's kind of him asking for trouble itself.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to be really sarcastic here. It's just that so much questions were even raised after this interview last night, and then these are the only issues here. We have so many other issues that were discussed yesterday. 1MDB is one of them, and we also had a GST benefits to these nations, how he answered to the questions. So many other things, Gowri.
And I'm glad you mentioned GST, because that was another thing that was also discussed last night. And I just want to highlight that a lot of businesses out there are of course trying to take advantage of GST, which was introduced on the 1st of April. And we also had a very interesting GST discussion yesterday, or more like a debate. So can also listen to that it's up on our website. And the interesting thing about this is businesses that are trying to increase their profit by just blaming the government, blaming the GST, when what they're really doing is just being unethical here and raising the price. So the Prime Minister has said that he is coming up with some enforcement efforts to ensure that anyone who tries to increase the price ridiculously will be actually charged, and he's going to do something to put a stop to all this.
Personally, I believe also that a GST will benefit the country eventually, but slowly. It's just that the immediate reaction from our people in Malaysia, it is so sudden with the higher living cost in Malaysia. So it's just that some to especially middle income and lower income families, it's just unbearable to be able to pay for what they used to pay before. It is so much difference. Well, it is said that the GST is the replacement of the service charge before. However, it's just another 6% that has added to the current the charges that we are having. So it's a plus that they have to pay even more.
I totally agree with you. Of course, GST can be beneficial to the nation in the long run, but the main issue here was one of it was awareness, because it's easy for us to say, okay, GST is going to start on the 1st of April, but there was although by right, we actually had 17 months to prepare for GST since it was announced, but there was not much on the ground effort being done from the government side to really explain to the people on how this works, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, because up until today, somebody could be, just cheating you on your receipt and saying that this is the price and this is GST, and you wouldn't even know it because it's still so new to us and we're not used to it. And I think that is something that the Prime Minister has to look at as well. If he's going to implement something as big as this that affects everyone in the country, everyone should be aware of it and everyone should know the right way that it works. So before we take a break, also a little mention of what happened in the Parliament yesterday, that it has been going on for quite late at night, it finishing at 2:33 a.m. and it seems that a lot of the Member of Parliaments are not happy about that because it also affects the quality of discussion after midnight.
A lot of complaints had been made, like where is this debate going on and where is this going basically. And then there were several issues that were needed to be discussed, but then it just ended up that they didn't finish the whole discussion properly.
And so we will wait for more updates from the Parliament today to see what they have decided last night. And for now, we are going to take a break. And when we come back, we are going to talk more about ASEAN, as now that we're done with everything that's been happening in Malaysia the last couple of days.
All right. ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome back to Duran ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Gowri
and with Grace,
and we are here to bring you more news from Southeast Asia. And from Malaysia, we will move to what's happening in the South China Sea with China and Vietnam, who are finally looking to bolster ties amid their sea dispute.
So should we congratulate them because it's this particular issue has been going on for a long time, Gowri.
That's right, and this actually came from a meeting that was held early this week, where the head of these two nations actually agreed to solve the dispute. But what's interesting about this is they actually went back to a war that they had back in 1979,
right,
and said that, oh hey, we fought before, we can we're fighting again, we can use that incident to work things out.
Oh wow.
So which is why right here it says they are using the Sino-Vietnam border to solve the dispute.
It's like they're learning their lessons from history.
It's like a married couple, like, hey, we fought before, like we can fix this. We don't need to prolong this argument and have this whole hostility hostility going on between two countries.
Wow, and then it was indeed a sort of joint communication coming from Beijing and Hanoi that both countries had a candid exchange regarding their long-standing maritime spat. And also, it was reported that the two countries, like you mentioned, they agreed to use well the Sino-Vietnam government border negotiation mechanism and also to uphold friendly consultations and negotiations to look for the basic and lasting resolution that both countries can accept.
So, well, of course, what happened with the Sino-Vietnamese War was that it was a war happened, like I said, back in 1979 between the People's Republic of China and also the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. And this caused, I think it started when Vietnam tried to invade Cambodia in 1978, and then China kind of retaliated to show their protest, and then that caused a war among them that lasted many years. And finally, in 1999, they came up with a pact. So some of the, I would say, elements was that there was a major adjustment in terms of land border, where Vietnam actually had to give a part of its land to China. So it's kind of like, I lost the battle, so I have to give you a small part of my country, which includes the Ai Nam Quan Gate, and that actually served as the traditional border marker and entry point between Vietnam and China. So I don't know how they're going to do it this time, because this is, of course, not a real war like it happened. It is a dispute, but no one launched any attack on each other. Of course, there is a lot of hostility going on between the two countries, but they're probably going to use the same border technique, where they are going to use one particular landmark or structure where they say, okay, so this part is yours and this part is mine, and solve the border that way.
So you actually, it's divided. You have the South China Sea there, but you're dividing the territory and the sea area. Well, that could be one of the solutions, but it is very interesting because when it comes to territory, and then when it comes to opinions about that certain territory, the more powerful country tend to have more things to say about it, and he or she, the country itself, wants to win over the lesser powerful country. But in fact, Vietnam, the country itself, has strengthened its military relationship with the United States since the South China Sea dispute has been heated up.
Of course, just like what Philippines also did, where they had to bring in the U.S. Because they felt threatened by what China was doing, and the same thing that Vietnam, they've also had a relationship going on with U.S. for a very long time, and they decided to sort of make use of this incident, and also to bring the U.S. back into the picture, and to sort of back them up in case anything happens. And of course, the best part is that they have finally reached a conclusion, and they know exactly what mechanism or what method that they are going to be using. So hopefully this solves the dispute between China and Vietnam, and there will be no more hostility. And the next one could probably be between China and Philippines. They could probably look back into the history, into some fight that they had, and try to use the same method again when it comes to
Well, why not? As long as it could solve the problems, and you can always use or learn the lessons from history.
So moving down a bit from Vietnam, we are talking about Myanmar, who are having a bit of a problem when it comes to family planning in the country, because they have a lot of young girls getting pregnant in the country, and also a lot of single mothers who do not have access to a proper birth space or to any sort of organization or any center to give them advice on how to have a safe pregnancy.
And it looks like they don't have the proper education system or the institutions, because some women, they didn't even know that they were pregnant. So it just happened that way, and then they had to admit to the hospital, but some of them were lucky to survive from their incidents.
Exactly, and of course, some of them end up in miscarriage as well because, like you said, they were not even aware of their pregnancy. So, which is why they have this thing now called the International Rescue Committee Program, where they train hundreds of women in Myanmar, especially in the Kayin state, to become advocates for birth spacing and also safe pregnancies. And this is sort of like a mother support group where they actually go door to door to talk to these young women, of probably even slightly older women, on how exactly for them to have a safe pregnancy, to deliver the child safely, and what are the procedures that they should follow in order to give birth to the child safely. And a lot of the members of this International Rescue Committee were actually women who had a miscarriage before or had some kind of misfortune that happened to them before, which is why they I guess do not want the same thing to happen to the others, and they're trying their best to participate and to help these other young women.
Well, at the same time, it also relates to the human rights issues here, and then definitely young girls need to know how to protect themselves from unwanted pregnancies. But not only young girls, older women as well. But how many services are there that are provided in the country? Are they really supported by the government? Or is it more like NGOs, actions to prevent from unwanted pregnancies?
It's very tricky. I'm glad you mentioned about the part about the government, because we know the current state of Myanmar right now with all the ethnic clashes, different rebel groups that's been fighting each other. And although they are supposed to have an election end of this year, a lot of parties are of course not feeling very optimistic about it because they have problems trying to amend their constitution and whatnot. But it seems that most rural areas are the ones that's affected by this, and a lot of hospitals and clinic don't really have a properly trained staff or even the proper equipment to actually help these people. So even if they do go to the clinic, they don't really have a way to, get proper access to medical care.
So which is very lacking in terms of probably hospitality or even the medical services that needs to be provided. But in fact, according to the studies that United Nations did before, is the maternal mortality rate in Myanmar is one of the highest in the region, and almost 90% of that occurred in the rural areas. And also the poor infrastructure makes it even harder to reach to the clinics or even hospitals.
That's right. And another problem, like we mentioned earlier, is of course the young mothers. It seems that you can have 18-year-olds with 3 children in Myanmar, and that's not even something that is unusual. It's become so common for them, something that they've gotten so used to, which is why it's great that they have the International Rescue Committee right now. Hopefully they push forward, push for the government support as well, try to educate as many young women possible and educate them on how to have a safe pregnancy. So we are going to take another quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk a bit about the ASEAN Silk Road that is going to be happening.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're with Gowri.
And welcome back, this is Grace.
And of course, this is our ASEAN Daily, where we bring you news from all over Southeast Asia. And speaking of Southeast Asia, especially in terms of connectivity, we have a very ambitious project happening here, which is known as the Silk Road Economic Belt, which involves the Indochina countries, and this is supposed to be also a maritime Silk Road that will be happening in the region. And the Chinese president visited Central Asia and Southeast Asia back in 2013, and he actually raised the initiative of jointly building the Silk Road economic belt as well as the 21st century maritime Silk Road.
So this objective of this project, we so-called, is to connect Asian, European, and African countries more closely and promote mutually beneficial cooperation to a new high and in new forms. Yes, it sounds very ambitious because it's all connecting the not only Asian countries, it's connecting the whole world basically.
Yeah, exactly. So we have actually the China-Pakistan economic corridor. We also have the Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar economic corridor, and this pretty much brings the whole Asia together, not just Southeast Asia, pretty much connecting all the way from India to China. They're trying to have a railway road as well. And this connectivity project was also supposed to help to align and help and coordinate all the development strategies, also to work on the relationship between countries, because when there is easy connectivity, it's very easy for them to start with their investments, for job opportunities, and even when it comes to not just economic benefits, but also people-to-people and cultural exchanges that could potentially happen between all these countries.
That's correct. And also, the Chinese government, they drafted and published the vision and actions on jointly building the Silk Road economic belt, the project, and also the 21st century maritime Silk Road to promote the implementation of all these things that we just mentioned. And then it is actually very good move and also initiatives. It is ambitious, but then it is also the opening up of the cooperation among the other countries that along the belt and the road.
And you are right, especially with the ASEAN economic community that's happening. I think opening up is like the theme or like the key word for the entire effort that's been happening. We talk a lot about movement of labor, of skills, people traveling to different countries, job opportunities, making investments easier, and every country is trying to open up to each other, especially in ASEAN itself. And that's why we have the ASEAN Summit coming up as well, where all the 10 leaders are going to get together and discuss among each other to see how they can facilitate this whole process when it comes to the ASEAN integration. And the Silk Road is another effort that is meant for the connectivity to make it easier for not only ASEAN countries, but for the ASEAN, probably ASEAN plus 6 other countries in the region as well, so everyone can benefit from this integration.
That's correct. And I really, really hope that this particular project, which is the Belt and Road Cooperation, really highlight, also be able to meet the mutual respect and trust, and also benefit, and then even more win-win cooperation for many countries to be able to benefit from this project.
So that's all the time that we have today. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want to give us any feedback, you can do so on our Facebook page, or you can tweet us. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the daily podcasts.
And then we also have Instagram. And also, don't forget to visit our main channel, which is our website, julianasean.com.